Hey, brothers and sisters, it's Bishop Tapp again. Just want to talk about um, part number 11 of our self-reliance. We're going through the baby steps. The last two times we talked about baby step 1 and baby step 2. One is to save $1,000 emergency fund. Baby step 2 is to eliminate debt. You don't move forward in the baby steps until you've done both of those things in sequential order. The baby steps are intended to be sequentially ordered, but today we really want to start on talking about baby step 3, because baby step 3 is actually the foundation for self-reliance. If we pull this up, baby step number 3 is save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Okay, we'll talk about what that means. Before we go there, though, I want to talk about the why and how this fits into the picture. There's a quote in the General Handbook that says, members of the church should not rely on the church's insurance against hard time. Speaking specifically about financial assistance. What does that mean? We talked about insurance before, a couple of videos back. Insurance is taking your risk and transferring it to another organization. So when you're buying insurance, you're transferring it to a company who's willing to take it on, willing to take that risk on for a small amount every month. But what we're doing if we don't have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up, is we're transferring the risk of if I lose a job to the church. And not just to the church, but to God and to to his kingdom, And so that's never a good thing. Risk isn't bad when you're investing, but it can be a very bad thing if there's not a plan around it. And so we don't want to put the risk in our lives onto the church. Because quite frankly, the church can only support on a temporary basis. And so if that temporary assistance dries up, you won't have a plan. So your 3 to 6 months emergency fund is really your own personal insurance against crisis in your life. There could be a lot of crisis. The most common is job loss. But maybe the economy takes a tumble and you have a business and it doesn't do so well, or maybe you have an accident, or any number of things. And so we just want to put a little buffer between ourselves and life. Now, this is kind of a funny topic for me because this is a step I'm on right now. I'm trying to get that 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up. But it's been the step I've been on for about 5 years. And that's a problem. I knew that was the baby step we would get on. And so when we get a chunk of cash saved up towards our 3 to 6 months of expenses, but in my mind, I had not earmarked it as 3 to 6 months of expenses. And so every time we got a chunk of cash saved up, me, the spender in our marriage, would get the travel bug and say, hey, let's go take this great trip or that great trip, and our emergency fund would go away just like that. And what's funny is without an emergency fund, you'll always be living next to broke. When we talk about living paycheck to paycheck, nobody wants to live paycheck to paycheck. What that means is if you lose a paycheck, you can't survive. Like if you lose one paycheck, you can't survive. And so that's really what you're living like when there is not a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So funny thing, Maddie and I have really buckled down, and we've earmarked now an emergency fund that won't be touched. No matter how bad I want to travel, this emergency fund is going to sit there. And it's going to be 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, let's talk about why expenses and not income. Because you could try to save up 3 to 6 months of income, but for, if you have let's say a $60,000 job, your income, half of your income would be $30,000, and that would take quite a while to save up. Most people's emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses is going to be $20,000 or less. It's enough to pay off, or excuse me, it's to pay your mortgage, it's to your mortgage or your rent, it's to handle food, utilities, travel, your basic expenses. It's not there to cover restaurants or eating out or travel or anything like that. It's there that if there's an emergency and you lose a job, your income might go away, but you can still cover all of your bills for 3 to 6 months. That's the ultimate goal. And so maybe I'm hammering that a little too hard, but we've got to make sure that you have that baseline of expenses covered. Because let's think about this. If I lost my job tomorrow, I've now got, we're coming up on 2 months of expenses saved. If I had 6 months of expenses saved, if I lost my job tomorrow, I could say, okay, let's reduce my lifestyle so that I'm not having any outgo that isn't absolutely essential. And then, in fact, I personally might go cut a few bills, see if I could, take my phone bill in half or do whatever I got to do to reduce my lifestyle, to make some changes so that we can survive. Then I would take that 3 to 6 months of expenses and use it extremely conservatively to buy me some time so that if I lost a job, I don't go into panic mode immediately. I can clear my head, and let my savings take care of my expenses, and go out and spend the next 6 months trying to find a job. The average job search is between 3 to 6 months, which is why they say 3 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, but I'm not going to sit back, throw out a hammock, and just waste away my 3 to 6 months. Now, none of us in reality does that, but I would start making it my full-time job to go find a full-time job. Get up and shave and shower every morning at 8 and get out the door and work on finding a job. That's what that 3 to 6 months of expenses is there to do. And if you approach a job loss in that way and have that money set aside, you're going to find a job quickly. Things are going to go well. And you aren't going to have to come to the church to cover your expenses for you. Again, you've successfully self-insured rather than trying to use the church as insurance. Again, it's not rocket science. It's just math, but it can be hard, and it's a behavior thing that we've got to fix. And so we want all of us to have that peace of mind. And so if once you've done baby step 1 and baby step 2, gotten out of debt, put money into an emergency fund. Now, what if you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, but you're sitting there in debt? The counsel I give you is take that savings and go put it on your debt and get your debt knocked out. If you can get your debt knocked out, then you can come back and really quickly put your money back in savings. The thing about debt is it's a monthly drain on your account, shrinking the money you have available to work with. And so if you can get that taken away and then save up 3 to 6 months of expenses really fast, you now have more money to work with in your picture to set yourself up to be financially or to be self-reliant. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. So again, 3 to 6 months of expenses, it's usually less than $20,000. If you're okay with living with a little risk, go for 3 months. Most people beef that up to 6 months. And so do what you can to get that involved. And again, if you are on a budget, you know exactly how much your monthly expenses are. Therefore, it's really easy to calculate what your target number is. And so if you do that, that'll lay a foundation for you then to just build wealth and your self-reliance from there. And so yeah, that's really it. It's not super complicated. Again, save $1,000, pay off your debt, 3 to 6 months of expenses, and that's it. I don't know if I have any more to say on that, but next time we'll go into baby step number 4, where we get into kind of the more exciting parts about investing and building up your overall net worth so that you can be self-reliant throughout your life. And so hopefully that makes sense. Again, give me a call if you have any questions. Let's talk through it and figure out how to help you move to that next step in your life. Love you all. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.